Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Thoughtful Software Podcast. My name is Fahad Shokat, and my co host is Andrew Wolf, CEO of SkipList. This podcast is all about building incredible and thoughtful software. So, in this episode, we spoke with Jake Annear, who leads digital marketing and the North American Innovation Lab at Moet Hennessy. We discussed consumer experiences, building a brand in the digital world, making data driven decisions, and also creative uses of technology within the wine and spirits industry. Really interesting stuff. It's a very fascinating discussion around a really challenging topic, merging digital and real world experiences. So here's Jake with an intro. We hope you enjoy. Here we go.
My name is Jake Annear. I have been working within LVMH and Moet Hennessy for the past 6.5 years. My current role is focused on digital content and innovation for our wines and spirits portfolio. And generally that role functions kind of as a subject matter expert within digital marketing and storytelling for our portfolio of brands. And from an innovation perspective is really all focused on new and emerging technology, identifying the kind of like white spaces within our business that we want to be testing with new technologies in, and collaborating within the startup ecosystem to kind of bring these types of tests to life.
What are some of the things that you're really excited about in terms of what you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our major pushes right now is kind of really hyper focused on consumer centricity and really getting better data and information about the people that are really enjoying our beverages. As you can probably imagine, the wines and spirits ecosystem is a very convoluted and difficult one. So getting to truly know our consumer is certainly a priority for us. And I think there's some new technologies, particularly in the voice and AI space, that we are kind of gung-ho about getting deeper in with. There's certainly some we're all about kind of like crafting experiences here at Moet Hennessy. So there's certainly some new technologies that will kind of allow us to do that much more efficiently, and more immersively, I should say. And so, yeah, I think it's a little bit of it's an open brief for me at the moment, but we're really like exploring new technologies and trying to find the thing that really hits off for our consumer base.
Knowing you're exploring all the technology, that's really cool. What technology are you really excited about that you see can really help Moet Hennessy get ahead and deliver the experience that they want?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but to me, voice is really going to be one of the bigger frontiers that we tackle over the next couple of years, really. Especially from a experience perspective, I think, it's still early days as far as what content experiences are like in voice, but I think it's just this evolution of the way that consumers interact with technology. Voice is a place where we feel like we can create some really great and unique services and experiences for our consumers. So, it's more than just kind of capturing the voice search market. It's enabling opportunities to engage consumers with events and gifting opportunities and kind of like unique VVIP experiences that I think we feel this is a kind of a touch point that we can really put some strong ownership in.
I find that really fascinating when you think about like physical products, like especially in your business,
Yeah.
and then marrying it with like a digital experience. So when you do have a great drink, the action of, transferring this into some digital format, I think is such a huge challenge. Like, because, if you imagine you're out with friends or anything like that, and you have a great drink, they have this with food, right? You go and make a review, but really for your brand, you want to create some elevated experience. And, how are you thinking about that elevated experience? I mean, you mentioned experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's part of it that is just like, is a design thinking exercise where we have to start with the experience first, and like what the consumer is expecting from the experience that we create for them. I really do believe it's not our role to just create luxury experiences online, but it is our role to drive engagement with luxury consumers when they are online. Do you know what I mean? Like the differentiation between that, like we can't just make premium experiences. We have to make experiences that luxury consumers are like actively seeking out.
You'll have to then establish a very specific or very complex like omni-channel strategy. There's all kinds of different sources that you could potentially get personal preferences from and learn more about the user. Do you find that challenging to create a strategy like that?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely probably our number one challenge. There's only so much you can do from like outside of the social media marketing opportunity that is kind of already pretty pervasive. And I think it's a question to us, like, what is the role of a brand's website if we ourselves, through literally like legal restrictions, we can't sell our products directly to our consumers. So at what point does a website it's just right now currently functioning as a marketing page, not really an experience driven one. So that's a challenge to us. What does a consumer want or need from a luxury wine and spirits brand when they're going to their website? Is there a need for additional experiences outside of just .com that we need to be creating that currently don't exist?
So one thing I've seen a couple services started to get more popular, like an SMS-based sommelier, and drink recommendations. You could do that with your voice, but you might be able to have a chat bot or something as well on your website to help people, to guide people to the proper experience. Is that something you guys have considered, or what's your thoughts around those kind of services? I guess I'll call them concierge type services.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe that is a very powerful opportunity. Kind of scaling of customer service, but taking it a step further, which is what you're saying is driving recommendations, being a concierge, helping our consumers not just get to the product recommendation, but to help them craft the experience into which they're actually enjoying our product. It's about driving new occasions and driving more opportunities to celebrate.
It's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
And the thing that I go back to myself, like, how can we make celebrations better? Obviously having dope champagne there makes it, but like what technology doesn't really take that into consideration. I mean, celebration is kind of personal. It's interpersonal too. But have you, like, how else besides obviously making sure people have the right beverages, are you thinking about potentially leveraging technology to but enable more celebration in the world? I mean, more happiness can never be a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're getting that's like really one of our like a core objective of what our team is really about is getting people to find more opportunities to celebrate, find more opportunities for happiness and joy, whatever you want to call it. But then the role of technology is almost to like step away. Otherwise I don't really like, what does a connected champagne glass do for you? I don't, that open question. What does augmented reality do for you when you're in the moment of celebration with your closest friends and family? To me, it's taking away from that experience, not adding to it. But if we can curate everything that led up to that point and then kind of get out of the way, that to me is the right approach.
Like, it's almost like technology needs to be invisible in some of these digital experiences, and that's an extremely hard challenge. I'd be curious though. I mean, maybe. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with you. Like, I think we can especially from an innovation perspective or corporate innovation perspective, if you're chasing the technology versus chasing the experience or what the consumer need is, you're totally missing the boat. And inevitably it's about a race towards earned media than it is about like earned share of the consumer's heart. And so it's got to have a real utility. And if it doesn't have a utility and it's in the way and you're asking for a consumer to take too many steps, then you've missed the boat.
But isn't it a little bigger than that too, right? So moment of celebration is important, but you can ruin my day. Let's say one of my favorite beers just came out from a local brewery here in Cleveland, Hop Juju, and it's not at my local store. Does that ruin my day? No. I have a perfectly good IPA sitting in my fridge that I'll enjoy. But because it wasn't there, I didn't get a chance to enjoy it. So there's almost inventory management plays into that entire holistic experience. My favorite champagne is always in stock. So technology can enable celebration. How are you thinking about saying it's an end-to-end experience, right? The thing you want is in stock so you can celebrate. Are you guys thinking about using technology in your supply chain from, beginning of how things are harvested all the way to being in my house when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting challenge for us. I think I'd like to see us come up with a creative way of really telling that from grape to glass, which is, I think, what you're saying, like from harvest all the way into my fridge. I mean, we looked a little bit in like the blockchain space, but I think we came to realize like that we couldn't find a unique enough of a reason why a consumer would respond to that. And maybe it's just a lack of a creative response that we have seen. But I just think like we kind of pushed back on chasing blockchain as a solution because of kind of what I said earlier. Like I just don't really know if it's something that we really need to be doing today until that is a more proven out technology. But I mean, I'm welcome to be challenged on that.
Oh, I would never challenge you on that. I mean, helping prove that your grapes are organic. I mean, you could do that without the blockchain. Might get one or two consumers interested, but like, I don't know if anyone. I mean, there are more. You're seeing a lot more non-GMO organic wines as like a selling point, but I don't know how big that market is. Don't think that's why people are consuming champagne. I just don't see a lot of overlap in my experience. Maybe there is. But that would be one usage of it. But I don't know if there's one like, oh, look where this grape came from, this particular grape we made your champagne with in this region of France is like, I don't think people really care about that.
Well, there's a big demand for sustainability, and organics, and just like you mentioned. So, I guess you're right, though. There's not probably a demand for like consumers like you and I that want proof that it's just on the blockchain and can you verify it's sustainable? And the whole process is, sustainable.
But then when you think about it, I mean, I don't know how long certain champagnes you've been making and wines you've been making have been around, but you've been making some of them for a very long time, over 70 years. I mean, you can't make something for 70 years and it not be sustainable. At some point, you just have to say, well, they've been around for a long time, so what they're doing must be working. It's just proof in the pudding.
I mean, we have some champagne houses that have been making champagne for over 200 years, and
crazy.
There isn't. I don't think there's any question about their sustainability and the sustainable practices that they use while in the vineyard. I just think we need to come up with a good storyline that makes that relevant for consumers here locally. So I don't think blockchain is the only way to do that. I just think we actually just need to come up with what the right story is to tell that organic, sustainable, the quality of the product, the quality of the production process, because that's really what is a differentiator for our products over the competition.
The thing that really gets me is like a lot of the wines these days look very similar and very similar packaging, very similar bottles. Obviously, some of the brands. But if one is out, let's say your favorite champagne's out and it's a Moet product, how do you guys think about inventory in stores? You see a lot of people trying to get computer vision in stores, getting RFID solutions so they can keep things in stock so they don't miss a sale. I don't know if it hurts consumer trust, but is that something you guys have given a thought to?
Yeah, it certainly is an important kind of focus for us, is inventory management and such. But the big hurdle that we face is that because we don't sell directly to our consumers, we're ultimately tied to what the retailer is kind of using in their floor plan, right? And as you can imagine, the wine and spirits sector is often or is very much driven by independent local liquor stores that don't have very sophisticated infrastructures to them. So I think it's something that we will welcome with open arms once it's at that point. But today we're more in kind of this hurry up and wait mode to really get to that.
There's some probably data analytics you can do too based on inventory in different areas and how quickly you sell out as a stopgap solution until you can put something physical in a store to manage it. So some people are doing that. You see a lot of data analytics thrown the way in that field.
Yeah, and I mean, just to be completely transparent, it's not really an area that I specifically focus on. I do know that we have teams out in the field that are actively trying to find more solutions for this issue, but it's probably something I should go back and figure a little bit more out about.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, as a point of celebration, if you can have your favorite drink, I think it makes a celebration that much better. It's obviously not necessarily a requirement, but it certainly would help.
Do you think that it'd be advantageous to have like one sort of? I mean, you have a lot of brands, under LM. What is it? LVMH. Right?
LVMH, yeah.
Yeah. So is it better to have like one kind of like platform to aggregate all these experiences, or is it you thinking about like individual, like one specific brand and that experience?
Yeah, I mean I don't know if we want to get into like the back of house data integration and stuff like that, but I think from an experience standpoint, each of our brands have an entirely different personality and an entirely different experience that they want to be bringing to their consumer. And so very rarely do we combine the two. We combine the two or three, or there's 20 plus brands just in our wines and spirits portfolio. So they function individually, and my role is not to find a one size fits all, but to find solutions that make the most sense for each of our brands individually. Of course, in some instances, there's efficiencies for certain products or platforms, whatever you want to call it. But by and large, I think the demands of each of our brands are very different and will remain separate for the foreseeable future.
So how I mean, obviously you can read the bottle or the packaging or what have you, but this is a technology podcast, so if from a technology perspective, I mean, obviously, if I walked up to a bottle and I held up my phone, there was like an AR experience of someone walking out and talking to me about the brand, that'd be cool. I don't think I'd use it, but that's just an example that came to my head. How do you differentiate and let me know the personality of the brand? And is it technology enabled, or is it, hey, learn to read, and we like people that are cultured, and we want people that what they know about the brands, they already get it? Like, how do you think about that?
It's about more around education, right?
Yeah, like how do you educate your consumers, and have you thought about using technology to help educate on the personality of the brands?
I mean, so much of it is in an event format where we're giving consumers an opportunity to taste our product, hear about the production process, the heritage, the story of the brand. Of course, we use digital marketing tactics, social media, email marketing, and website, et cetera, to disseminate a lot of that information. But the the real dream is to find opportunities to connect to consumers in a one-to-one basis to really drive the messages home. Because our stories are so beautiful and so unique, it really needs that high touch engagement.
And sometimes I say like experiences, one of the principles we have at Skipless is to earn your complexity. And when you think about, just an experience, it should be in the simplest form, right? Like I've seen some of the mixologist videos that you guys have on YouTube, and you're just like watching this guy, roll up his sleeve. He has a vest on. I mean, he looks like a proper mixologist. And to see him make a drink and explain, the ingredients behind it and how you should use it, and he's like shaking the drink, and that in itself, you're like, wow, that's really, really impressive. And you didn't know that you could use XYZ together for such and such. And that may be just as simple as that, and to kind of do more storytelling around that, and that creates a better experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we can tell more stories at scale and get more people to see and hear the stories that we have to say, I think our story is strong enough and a convincing enough one that they will inevitably become a lover of the brand and the product.
Yeah, we also did a recent podcast on cannabis, right? And that was one of those industries where technology has not yet caught up to, this new industry that's, growing, and it's going to be growing for the foreseeable future. And I almost see like some common similarities here, where in some cases like we talked about technology being invisible, where, you just want to share that experience, that story. And I see, for me, like my personal use would be, from technology standpoint, would be just to save my experience. Like when you're out and about and you find something you like, how do I capture that and save it and then reference it later? And maybe there could be some intelligence behind that. But beyond that, I'm not sure. Like, what I would find interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I kind of said it earlier, but it's like, what can we do as experts in our given industry to help make recommendations to optimize your experience, step away, and then come back to help recognize the event or the night or whatever it is that you just had. But in the middle of that experience, I mean, sure, we want you posting about our brands on social media, but beyond that, I still haven't found maybe the technology angle that wouldn't be too obtrusive to the experience.
That's such a fascinating challenge, man.
But in reality, like if it's not obvious, then maybe that's okay. Like maybe we don't need to spend our time trying to insert technology into people's experiences and see what is to come. Especially as like a luxury portfolio, our role isn't really to like jump on a trend, it's really to drive a trend. And so if we're seeing other brands running or chasing a given like technology vertical, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to run along with them. I mean, we will pay very close attention to it, but we won't act unless we're absolutely certain that this is the right experience for our consumer base.
Yeah, and I think some of the things that we've seen in our space, because we build software, is quite often you may not need to enable new technology or anything new. It's more of what you're doing on the back end, right? Making sure your data infrastructure and architecture is there, so that once you have all this information, you can make decisions. Because right now, quite often, companies are behind in that specific area. Just being able to collect information from Facebook and LinkedIn and so forth. What are people consuming, and how do we scrape this data? How do we understand it? Is there, now deep learning techniques that we can identify patterns? then from there, we're like, okay, it may make sense to add, like AR or VR or something like that. But quite often, people have somebody jump ahead. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that there should be a lot of focus on the like back of house, the infrastructure, the types of data integrations that you have, which are really all about facilitating a better communication flow to your fans and consumers. Beyond that, I mean, think about it. We're literally on a podcast right now. This is like the newest, oldest technology, but people are tuning into podcasts more than they ever have, and it's not obtrusive. It's actually quite simple, and it works. So you're right. It's maybe not a new technology. It very well could be something, just doing something a little bit better with an existing technology.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Just do a podcast while we're having a drink, maybe, and then describe what we're doing.
The missed opportunity is the missed opportunity for a celebration. Like I even see it all the time in like people almost like roll their eyes at the thought of using a QR code in marketing assets and such. But like it's the simplest way to get from analog to digital.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's old technology, and it almost has a parallel to the podcast. Like it's new old technology that is effective. So maybe not having to rethink the whole process and just using what is already out there in a just more premium or more efficient, better way. And to be honest, I think that's why I'm like really, really leaning in more on the voice marketing stuff, because like audio as like an engagement piece is extremely powerful. It's pervasive. It's literally everywhere. And it's like the barrier to entry is literally using your voice or using your ears, your voice and your ears. And it could potentially become super personal. And I think like when you, at least from a kind of like thoughtful software perspective, I feel like it's a logical step in consumer behavior where like you're kind of stepping away from the screen, away from interface computing to just like audio direct, it's like it's more natural than anything else than using a keyboard. This is my pseudoscience. It definitely takes less brain power, and it gives you an opportunity to like put the screen away.
I think that is probably right. That is a really clear technology solution that could be very, very powerful. I mean, if you look at your own experiences, right? I mean, just if you have an event happening on Saturday and, you're already communicating with Amazon and Alexa and things like that, being able to say, what type of, drink should I have? And, can you tell me more? Then being able to serve up additional information about, a specific event, like it's a celebration. I think, you and you've mentioned before that like champagne might be really good with steak. And, those type of suggestions and that conversation can educate people. And it's very easy because people are already doing that now with all the voice tools that are out there.
There's certainly an education element. There's obviously an entertainment element, but there's even more so just providing utility and services to people. Because if you have an event, you can use one of your voice assistants to get you a reservation at a restaurant, and then use it to call a car to pick you up and figure out what the weather is and therefore what the right outfit to be wearing. And if we can be there to recommend the perfect cocktail pairing or food pairing, I think that's a win.
Thanks for listening. You can always connect with us at skiplist.com.